Good morning, everybody. Here's some bubbles for you. There you go. Today marks the new week of how I do devotions. They're going to be from Monday through Friday, and it's going to be, I'm going to say the Lord's Prayer, say the daily prayer, and then at the end of the week, we'll read all the scriptures that was written down, and then we'll read them all at the end of the week. Okay? So the daily prayer is, and it refers to Micah 6:8 again. So the daily prayer for Monday, September 10th, 2018 is, My Lord, I ask that you teach me to show that same mercy unto others with a spirit of humility, for it is not my mercy that I extended, but your mercy. So go check out Micah 6:8. Oh, yeah, I don't read that. Even the daily verse, I'm not going to read no more. But like I said, at the end of the week, most likely Friday night or Friday evening, Saturday morning, or I pre-record it. I don't know what I'm doing yet. So now we just read. We start from the last book we ended. Let me go see which one that one was. Oh, daily readings. I have a paper written down for that. No, I don't. Hold on. Last time. Oh, Samuel. Second Samuel was the last one, so we start First Kings. Let me get a paper because I forgot I wanted to write this down too. Do you hate you want to get a piece of paper and you get like 5? Okay, what am I doing? All right, Monday. September. Oh. 10th, 2018. I was supposed to write daily readings. Daily readings. There we go. And we're doing first. Let me go put it on First Kings. 1 through 6. Now put it in the right place. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff labeled here. Yeah. I want to keep track. Okay. First King 1, chapter 1. David's last days. Now King David was old and advanced in age. Although they covered him with bedclothes, he could not get warm. So his servants said to him, Let us search for a young virgin for my lord the king. She is to attend the king and be his caregiver. She is to lie by your side so that my lord the king will get warm. They searched for a beautiful girl throughout the territory of Israel. They found Abishag, the Shunammite, and brought her to the king. The girl was of unsurpassed beauty, and she became the king's caregiver. She attended to him, but he was not intimate with her. I am highlighting as I go along because I don't want to forget it, because I usually do. Adonijah, Adonijah bid for power. Adonijah, son of Haggith, kept exalting himself, saying, I will be king. He prepared chariots, cavalry, and 50 men to run ahead of him. But his father had never once infuriated him by asking, why did you do that? In addition, he was quite handsome and was born after Absalom. Oh boy, I looked away for 1 second. Okay. He conspired with Joab, son of Zariah, and with the priest Abitha. They supported Adonijah, but the priest Zadok, Benaiah, son of Je- Jehoiada, oh my God, the prophet Nathan, Shimei, Ray, and David's royal guard did not side with Adonijah. Adonijah sacrificed sheep, goats, cattle, and fattened cattle near the stone of Zohaleth, which is next to in Rogel. He invited all his royal brothers and all the men of Judah, the servants of the king, but he did not invite the prophet Nathan, Benaiah, the royal guard, or his brother Solomon. Sorry about my pronunciation of words. I have a lot of trouble. Let me highlight it. This is why I have the machine read it. I won't be reading all 6 chapters. So it's easier for the machine to do, but I promise I'll read as much as I can. Okay, Nathan's and Bathsheba's appeals. Then Nathan said to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, have you not heard that Adonijah, son of Haggith, has become king, and our Lord David does not know it? Now please come and let me advise you. Save your life and the life of your son Solomon. Go approach King David and say to him, my lord the king, did you not swear to your servant, your son Solomon is to become king after me, and he is the one who is to sit on my throne? So why has Adonijah become king? At that moment, while you are still there speaking with the king, I'll come in after you and confirm your words. So Bathsheba went to the king in his bedroom, since the king was very old. Abishag, the Shunammite, was attendant to him. Bathsheba knelt low and paid homage to the king, and he said, what do you want? She replied, my lord, you swore to your servant by the Lord your God, your son Solomon is to become king after me, and he is the one who is to sit on my throne. Now look, Adonijah has become king, and my lord the king, you didn't know it? He has lavishly sacrificed oxen, fattened cattle, and sheep. He invited all his king's sons, the priests Abiathar, and Jacob, the commander of the army, but he did not invite your servant Solomon. Now, my lord the king, the eyes of all Israel are on you to tell them who will sit on the throne of my lord the king after him. Otherwise, Then my lord the king rest with his fathers. I and my son Solomon will be regarded as criminals. At that moment, while she was still speaking with the king, the prophet Nathan arrived, and it was announced to the king, the prophet Nathan is here. He came into the king's presence and paid homage to him with his face to the ground. My lord the king, Nathan said, did you say Adonijah is to become king after me? And he is the one who is to sit on my throne? For today he went down and lavishly sacrificed oxen, fattened cattle, and sheep. He invited all the sons of the king and commanders of the army and the priests at Abiathar. And look, they're eating and drinking in the presence. And they're saying, long live King Adonijah. But he did not invite me, your servant, or the priest Zadok, or Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, or your servant Solomon. I'm certain my lord the king would not have let this happen without letting your servant know who will sit on my lord the king's throne after him. Solomon confirmed king. Yes. King responded by saying, call Bathsheba for me, so she can, no, so she came into the king's presence and stood before him. The king swore an oath and said, as the Lord lives, who has redeemed my life from every difficulty, just as I swore to you by the Lord God of Israel, your son Solomon is to become king after me, and he is the one who is to sit on my throne in my place. That is exactly what I will do this very day. Bathsheba knelt low with her face to the ground, paying homage to the king, and said, may my lord King David live forever. King David then said, call in the priest Zadok, the prophet Nathan, and Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, here for me. So they came into the king's presence. The king said to them, take my servants with you. Have my son Solomon ride on my own mule and take him down to Gihon. There the priest Zadok and the prophet Nathan are to anoint him as king over Israel. You are to blow the ram's horn and say, long live King Solomon. You are to come up after him, and he is to come in and sit on my throne. He is the one who is to become king in my place. He is the one I have commanded to be ruler over Israel and Judah. Yes. Amen. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, replied to the king, may the Lord, the God of my lord the king, so affirm it. Just as the Lord was with my lord the king, so may he be with Solomon, and make his throne greater than the throne of my lord King David. Then the priest Zadok, the prophet Nathan, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, the Cherethites, and the Pelethites went down, had Solomon ride on King David's mule, and took him to Gihon. The priest Zadok took the horn of oil from the tabernacle and anointed Solomon. Then they blew the ram's horn, and all people proclaimed, long live King Solomon. All the people went up after him, playing flutes and rejoicing with such a great joy that the earth split open from the sound. Hold on while I highlight. Okay. Adonijah hears of Solomon's coronation. Adonijah and all of the invited guests who were with him heard the noise as they finished eating. Joab heard the sound of the ram's horn and said, "Why is the town in such an uproar?" He was still speaking when Jonathan, son of Abitha, the priest, suddenly arrived. Adonijah said, "Come in, for you are an important man, and you must be bringing good news." "Fortunately not," Jonathan answered. "Our Lord King David has made Solomon king, and with Solomon the king has sent the priest Zadok, the prophet Nathan, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, the Karanites, and the Palathites, and they have had him ride on the king's mule. The priest Zadok and the prophet Nathan have anointed him king of Gilead. They have gone up from there rejoicing. The town has been in an uproar. That's the noise you heard. Solomon has even taken his seat on the royal throne. The king's servants have also gone to congregate, congr- con- congratulate our Lord King David, saying, "May your God make the name of Solomon more well known than your name, and may he make his throne greater than your throne." Then the king bowed and worshipped on his bed, and the king went on to say this: "Blessed be the Lord God of Israel. Today he has provided one to sit on my throne, and I am a witness." Then all of Adonijah's guests got up trembling and went their separate ways. Sorry, I had to look. Oh boy. Hold on. I kind of. Okay. Adonijah was afraid of Solomon, so he got up and went to take hold of the horns after the altar. He was reported to Solomon, "Look, Adonijah fears King Solomon, and he has taken hold of the horns of the altar, saying, 'Let King Solomon first swear to me that he will not kill his servant with the sword.'" Then Solomon said, "If he is a man of character, not a single hair on his will fall to the ground. But if evil is found in him, he dies." So King Solomon sent for him, and they looked him down from the altar. He came and paid homage to King Solomon, and Solomon said to him, "Go to your home." I am going to have the app.
First Kings.
No. The app read the rest of it, because I almost couldn't get through that.
Chapter 2. As the time approached for David to die, he ordered his son Solomon, "As for me, I am going the way of all of the earth. Be strong and be a man, and keep your obligation to the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his statutes, commands, ordinances, and decrees. This is written in the law of Moses, so that you will have success in everything you do, and wherever you turn, and so that the Lord will fulfill his promise that he made to me. If your sons guard their way to walk faithfully before me with all their heart and all their soul, you will never fail to have a man on the throne of Israel. You also know what Joab, son of Zeruiah, did to me, and what he did to the two commanders of Israel's army, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether. He murdered them in a time of peace, to avenge blood shed in war. He spilled that blood on his own waistband and on the sandals of his feet. Act according to your wisdom, and do not let his gray head descend to Sheol in peace. Show kindness to the sons of Barzillai the Gileadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table, because they supported me when I fled from your brother Absalom. Keep an eye on Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjaminite from Bahurim, who was with you. He uttered malicious curses against me the day I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to meet me at the Jordan River, and I swore to him by the Lord, I will never kill you with the sword. So don't let him go unpunished, for you are a wise man. You know how to deal with him, to bring his gray head down to Sheol with blood. Then David rested with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David. The length of time David reigned over Israel was 40 years. He reigned 7 years in Hebron, and 33 years in Jerusalem. Solomon sat on the throne of his father David, and his kingship was firmly established. Now Adonijah, son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. She asked, "Do you come peacefully?" "Peacefully," he replied, and then asked, "May I talk with you?" "Go ahead," she answered. "You know the kingship was mine," he said. "All Israel expected me to be king. But then the kingship was turned over to my brother, for the Lord gave it to him. So now I have just one request of you. Don't turn me down." She said to him, "Go on." He replied, "Please speak to King Solomon, since he won't turn you down. Let him give me Abishag the Shunammite as a wife." "Very well," Bathsheba replied. "I will speak to the king for you." So Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him about Adonijah. The king stood up to greet her, bowed to her, sat down on his throne, and had a throne placed for the king's mother. So she sat down at his right hand. Then she said, "I have just one small request of you. Don't turn me down." "Go ahead and ask, mother," the king replied, "for I won't turn you down." So she said, "Let Abishag the Shunammite be given to your brother Adonijah as a wife." King Solomon answered his mother, "Why are you requesting Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Since he is my elder brother, you might as well ask the kingship for him. For the priest Abiathar, and for Joab son of Zeruiah." Then King Solomon took an oath by the Lord. "May God punish me, and do so severely, if Adonijah has not made this request at the cost of his life. And now, as the Lord lives, the one who established me, seated me on the throne of my father David, and made me a dynasty as he promised, I swear, Adonijah will be put to death today." Then King Solomon dispatched Benaiah son of Jehoiada, who struck down Adonijah, and he died. The king said to the priest Abiathar, "Go to your fields in Anathoth. Even though you deserve to die, I will not put you to death today, since you carried the ark of the Lord God in the presence of my father David, and you suffered through all that my father suffered." So Solomon banished Abiathar from being the Lord's priest, and it fulfilled the Lord's prophecy he had spoken at Shiloh against Eli's family. The news reached Joab. Since he had supported Adonijah, but not Absalom, Joab fled to the Lord's tabernacle and took hold of the horns of the altar. It was reported to King Solomon, "Joab has fled to the Lord's tabernacle and is now beside the altar." Then Solomon sent Benaiah son of Jehoiada and told him, "Go and strike him down." So Benaiah went to the tabernacle and said to Joab, "This is what the king says. Come out." But Joab said, "No, for I will die here." So Benaiah took a message back to the king. "This is what Joab said, and this is how he answered me." The king said to him, "Do just as he says. Strike him down and bury him, in order to remove from me and from my father's family the blood that Joab shed without just cause. The Lord will bring back his own blood on his head, because he struck down 2 men more righteous and better than he, without my father David's knowledge." With his sword, Joab murdered Abner, son of Ner, commander of Israel's army, and Amasa, son of Jether, commander of Judah's army. The responsibility for their deaths will come back to Joab and to his descendants forever. But for David, his descendants, his dynasty, and his throne, there will be peace from the Lord forever. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, went up, struck down Joab, and put him to death. He was buried at his house in the wilderness. Then the king appointed Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, in Joab's place over the army, and he appointed the priest Zadok in Abiathar's place. Then the king summoned Shimei and said to him, "Build a house for yourself in Jerusalem and live there, but don't leave there and go anywhere else. On the day you do leave and cross the Kidron Valley, know for sure that you will certainly die. Your blood will be on your own head." Shimei said to the king, "The sentence is fair. Your servant will do as my lord the king has spoken." And Shimei lived in Jerusalem for a long time. But then, at the end of 3 years, 2 of Shimei's slaves ran away to Achish, son of Maacah, king of Gath. Shimei was informed, "Look, your slaves are in Gath." So Shimei saddled his donkey and set out to Achish at Gath to search for his slaves. He went and brought them back from Gath. It was reported to Solomon that Shimei had gone from Jerusalem to Gath and had returned. So the king summoned Shimei and said to him, "Didn't I make you swear by the Lord and warn you, saying, 'On the day you leave and go anywhere else, know for sure that you will certainly die'? And you said to me, 'The sentence is fair, I will obey.' So why have you not kept the Lord's oath and the command that I gave you?" The king also said, "You yourself know all the evil that you did to my father David. Therefore the Lord has brought back your evil on your head. But King Solomon will be blessed, and David's throne will remain established before the Lord forever." Then the king commanded Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, and he went out and struck Shimei down, and he died. So the kingdom was established in Solomon's hand. Chapter 3. Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, by marrying Pharaoh's daughter. Solomon brought her to the city of David until he finished building his palace, the Lord's temple, and the walls surrounding Jerusalem. However, the people were sacrificing on the high places, because until that time a temple for the Lord's name had not been built. Solomon loved the Lord by walking in the statutes of his father David, but he also sacrificed and burned incense on the high places. The king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, because it was the most famous high place. He offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night. God said, "Ask, what should I give you?" And Solomon replied, "You have shown great and faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he walked before you in faithfulness, righteousness, and integrity. You have continued this great and faithful love for him by giving him a son to sit on his throne, as it is today. Lord my God, you have now made your servant king in my father David's place. Yet I am just a youth with no experience in leadership. Your servant is among your people you have chosen, a people too many to be numbered or counted. So give your servant a receptive heart to judge your people and to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours?" Now it pleased the Lord that Solomon had requested this. So God said to him, because you have requested this, and did not ask for long life, or riches for yourself, or the death of your enemies, but you asked discernment for yourself to administer justice, I will therefore do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and understanding heart, so that there has never been anyone like you before, and never will be again. In addition, I will give you what you did not ask for, both riches and honor, so that no king will be your equal during your entire life. If you walk in my ways, and keep my statutes and commands just as your father David did, I will give you a long life. Then Solomon woke up, and realized it had been a dream. He went to Jerusalem, stood before the ark of the Lord's covenant, and offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then he held a feast for all his servants. Then 2 women who were prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. One woman said, Please, my lord, this woman and I live in the same house, and I had a baby while she was in the house. On the 3rd day after I gave birth, she also had a baby, and we were alone. No one else was with us in the house, just the 2 of us were there. During the night, this woman's son died because she lay on him. She got up in the middle of the night and took my son from my side, while your servant was asleep. She laid him in her arms. Then she put her dead son in my arms. When
Okay, Angela, how are you today?
I got up in the morning to nurse my son, I discovered he was dead. That morning, when I looked closely at him, I realized that he was not the son I gave birth to. No, the other woman said. My son is the living one. Your son is the dead one. The first woman said, No, your son is the dead one. My son is the living one. So they argued before the king. The king replied, This woman says, This is my son who is alive, and your son is dead. But that woman says, No, your son is dead, and my son is alive. The king continued, Bring me a sword. So they brought the sword to the king.
I know the story.
And the king said, Cut the living boy in 2, and give half to one and half to the other. The woman whose son was alive spoke to the king, because she felt great compassion for her son. My lord, give her the living baby, she said, but please don't have him killed. But the other one said, He will not be mine or yours. Cut him in 2. The king responded, Give the living baby to the first woman, and don't kill him. She is his mother. All Israel heard about the judgment the king had given, and they stood in awe of the king, because they saw that God's wisdom was in him to carry out justice.
I remember this story a long time ago.
Chapter 4. King Solomon reigned over all Israel, and these were his officials. Azariah, son of Zadok, priest. Elihoreph and Ahijah, the sons of Shisha, secretaries. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, court historian. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, in charge of the army. Zadok and Abiathar, priests. Azariah, son of Nathan, in charge of the deputies. Zabud, son of Nathan, a priest and advisor to the king. Ahishar, in charge of the palace. And Adoniram, son of Abda, in charge of forced labor. Solomon had 12 deputies for all Israel. They provided food for the king and his household. Each one made provision for 1 month out of the year. These were their names. Ben-Hur, in the hill country of Ephraim.
Ben-Hur.
Ben-Dekur, in Makaz. Shealbim, Beth-Shemesh, and Elon Beth-Hanan. Ben-Hesed, in Aruboth. He had Soko and the whole land of Hepher. Ben-Abinadab, in all Naphath-Dar. Taphath, daughter of Solomon, was his wife. Baanah, son of Ahilud, in Taanach, Megiddo, and all Bethshean, which is beside Zarathan, below Jezreel. From Bethshean to Abel-Maholah, as far as the other side of Jokmeam. Ben-Geber, in Ramoth-Gilead, he had the villages of Jair, son of Manasseh, which are in Gilead, And he had the region of Argob, which is in Bashan, 60 great cities with walls and bronze bars. Ahinadab son of Iddo in Mahanaim, Ahimaaz in Naphtali. He also had married a daughter of Solomon, Basemath. Baanah son of Hushai in Asher and Bealoth, Jehoshaphat son of Peruah in Issachar, Shimei son of Elah in Benjamin, Geber son of Uri in the land of Gilead, the country of King Sihon of the Amorites and of King Og of Bashan. There was one deputy in the land of Judah. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand by the sea. They were eating, drinking, and rejoicing. Solomon ruled all the kingdoms, from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines, and as far as the border of Egypt. They offered tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. Solomon's provisions for one day were 150 bushels of fine flour and 300 bushels of meal, 10 fattened cattle, 20 range cattle, and 100 sheep and goats, besides deer, gazelles, roebucks, and pen-fed poultry. For he had dominion over everything west of the Euphrates from Tifsa to Gaza, and over all the kings west of the Euphrates. He had peace on all his surrounding borders. Throughout Solomon's reign, Judah and Israel lived in safety, from Dan to Beersheba, each person under his own vine and his own fig tree. Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots, and 12,000 horsemen. Each of those deputies, for a month in turn, provided food for King Solomon, and for everyone who came to King Solomon's table. They neglected nothing. Each man brought the barley and the straw for the chariot teams and the other horses to the required place according to his assignment. God gave Solomon wisdom, very great insight, and understanding as vast as the sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the people of the East, greater than all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, Calcol, and Darda, sons of Mahol. His reputation extended to all the surrounding nations. Solomon spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He spoke about trees, from the cedar in Lebanon to the hyssop growing out of the wall. He also spoke about animals, birds, reptiles, and fish. Emissaries of all peoples, sent by every king on earth who had heard of his wisdom, came to listen to Solomon's wisdom. Chapter 5. King Hiram of Tyre sent his emissaries to Solomon when he heard that he had been anointed king in his father's place, for Hiram had always been friends with David. Solomon sent this message to Hiram: "You know my father David was not able to build a temple for the name of the Lord his God. This was because of the warfare all around him, until the Lord put his enemies under his feet. The Lord my God has now given me rest on every side. There is no enemy or crisis. So I plan to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God, according to what the Lord promised my father David. I will put your son on your throne in your place, and he will build the temple for my name. Therefore, command that cedars from Lebanon be cut down for me. My servants will be with your servants, and I will pay your servants' wages according to whatever you say. For you know that not a man among us knows how to cut timber, like the Sidonians." When Hiram heard Solomon's words, he rejoiced greatly and said, "Blessed be the Lord today. He has given David a wise son to be over this great people." Then Hiram sent a reply to Solomon saying, "I have heard your message. I will do everything you want regarding the cedar and cypress timber. My servants will bring the logs down from Lebanon to the sea, and I will make them into rafts to go by sea to the place you indicate. I will break them apart there, and you can take them away. You then can meet my needs by providing my household with food." So Hiram provided Solomon with all the cedar and cypress timber he wanted, and Solomon provided Hiram with 100,000 bushels of wheat as food for his household. and 110,000 gallons of oil from crushed olives. Solomon did this for Hiram year after year. The Lord gave Solomon wisdom, as he had promised him. There was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a treaty. Then King Solomon drafted forced laborers from all Israel. The labor force numbered 30,000 men. He sent 10,000 to Lebanon each month in shifts. 1 month they were in Lebanon, 2 months they were at home. Adoniram was in charge of the forced labor. Solomon had 70,000 porters and 80,000 stone cutters in the mountains, not including his 3,300 deputies in charge of the work. They supervised the people doing the work. The king commanded them to quarry large, costly stones to lay the foundation of the temple with dressed stones. So Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders, along with the Gebalites, quarried the stone and prepared the timber and stone for the temple's construction. Chapter 6. Solomon began to build the temple for the Lord in the 480th year after the Israelites came out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of his reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month. The temple that King Solomon built for the Lord was 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 45 feet high. The portico in front of the temple sanctuary was 30 feet long, extending across the temple's width, and 15 feet deep in front of the temple. He also made windows with beveled frames for the temple. He then built a chambered structure along the temple wall encircling the walls of the temple, that is, the sanctuary and the inner sanctuary, and he made side chambers all around. The lowest chamber was 7.5 feet wide, the middle was 9 feet wide, and the third was 10.5 feet wide. He also provided offset ledges for the temple all around the outside, so that nothing would be inserted into the temple walls. The temple's construction used finished stones cut at the quarry, so that no hammer, chisel, or any iron tool was heard in the temple while it was being built. The door for the lowest side chamber was on the right side of the temple. They went up a stairway to the middle chamber, and from the middle to the third. When he finished building the temple, he paneled it with boards and planks of cedar. He built the chambers along the entire temple, joined to the temple with cedar beams. Each story was 7.5 feet high. The word of the Lord came to Solomon. As for this temple you are building, if you walk in my statutes, observe my ordinances, and keep all my commands by walking in them, I will fulfill my promise to you, which I made to your father David. I will dwell among the Israelites, and not abandon my people Israel. When Solomon finished building the temple, he paneled the interior temple walls with cedar boards. From the temple floor to the surface of the ceiling, he overlaid the interior with wood. He also overlaid the floor with cypress boards. Then he lined 30 feet of the rear of the temple with cedar boards, from the floor to the surface of the ceiling. And he built the interior as an inner sanctuary, the most holy place. The temple, that is the sanctuary in front of the most holy place, was 60 feet long. The cedar paneling inside the temple was carved with ornamental gourds and flower blossoms. Everything was cedar, not a stone could be seen. He prepared the inner sanctuary inside the temple to put the Ark of the Lord's covenant there. The interior of the sanctuary was 30 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 30 feet high. He overlaid it with pure gold. He also overlaid the cedar altar. Next, Solomon overlaid the interior of the temple with pure gold. And he hung gold chains across the front of the inner sanctuary and overlaid it with gold. So he added the gold overlay to the entire temple until everything was completely finished, including the entire altar that belongs to the inner sanctuary. In the inner sanctuary, he made 2 cherubim 15 feet high out of olive wood. One wing of the first cherub was 7.5 feet long, and the other wing was 7.5 feet long. The wingspan was 15 feet from tip to tip. The second cherub also was 15 feet. Both cherubim had the same size and shape. The first cherub's height was 15 feet, and so was the second cherub's. Then he put the cherubim inside the inner temple. Since their wings were spread out, the first one's wing touched one wall, while the second cherub's wing touched the other wall. And in the middle of the temple, their wings were touching wing to wing. He also overlaid the cherubim with gold. He carved all the surrounding temple walls with carved engravings, cherubim, palm trees, and flower blossoms, in the inner and outer sanctuaries. He overlaid the temple floor with gold in both the inner and the outer sanctuaries. For the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made olive wood doors. The pillars of the doorposts were 5-sided. The 2 doors were made of olive wood. He carved cherubim, palm trees, and flower blossoms on them, and overlaid them with gold, hammering gold over the cherubim and palm trees. In the same way, he made 4-sided olive wood doorposts for the sanctuary entrance. The 2 doors were made of cypress wood. The first door had 2 folding sides, and the second door had 2 folding panels. He carved cherubim, palm trees, and flower blossoms on them, and overlaid them with gold applied evenly over the carving. He built the inner courtyard with 3 rows of dressed stone and a row of trimmed cedar beams. The foundation of the Lord's temple was laid in Solomon's 4th year in the month of Ziv. In his 11th year in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, the temple was completed in every detail and according to every specification. So he built it in 7 years.
Last one.
Chapter 7. Solomon completed his entire palace complex after 13 years of construction. He built the house of the forest of Lebanon. It was 150 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high on 4 rows of cedar pillars, with cedar beams on top of the pillars. It was paneled above with cedar at the top of the chambers that rested on 45 pillars, 15 per row. There were 3 rows of window frames, facing each other in 3 tiers. All the doors and doorposts had rectangular frames, the openings facing each other in 3 tiers. He made the hall of pillars 75 feet long and 45 feet wide. A portico was in front of the pillars, and a canopy with pillars was in front of them. He made the hall of the throne where he would judge, the hall of judgment. It was paneled with cedar from the floor to the rafters. Solomon's own palace where he would live, in the other courtyard behind the hall, was of similar construction. And he made a house like this hall for Pharaoh's daughter, his wife. All of these buildings were of costly stones, cut to size and sawed with saws on the inner and outer surfaces, from foundation to coping, and from the outside to the great courtyard. The foundation was made of large, costly stones 12 and 15 feet long. Above were also costly stones cut to size, as well as cedar wood. Around the great courtyard, as well as the inner courtyard of the Lord's temple and the portico of the temple, were 3 rows of dressed stone and a row of trimmed cedar beams. King Solomon had Hiram brought from Tyre. He was a widow's son from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a bronze craftsman. Hiram had great skill, understanding, and knowledge to do every kind of bronze work. So he came to King Solomon and carried out all his work. He cast 2 bronze pillars, each 27 feet high and 18 feet in circumference. He also made 2 capitals of cast bronze to set on top of the pillars. 7.5 feet was the height of the first capital, and 7.5 feet was also the height of the second capital. The capitals on top of the pillars had gratings of lattice work, wreaths made of chain work, 7 for the first capital and 7 for the second. He made the pillars with 2 encircling rows of pomegranates on the one grating to cover the capital on top. He did the same for the second capital, and the capitals on top of the pillars in the portico were shaped like lilies, 6 feet high. The capitals on the 2 pillars were also immediately above the rounded surface next to the grating, and 200 pomegranates were in rows encircling each capital. He set up the pillars at the portico of the sanctuary. He set up the right pillar and named it Jachin. Then he set up the left pillar and named it Boaz. The tops of the pillars were shaped like lilies. Then the work of the pillars was completed. He made the cast metal basin, 15 feet from brim to brim, perfectly round. It was 7.5 feet high and 45 feet in circumference. Ornamental gourds encircled it below the brim, 10 every half yard, completely encircling the basin. The gourds were cast in 2 rows when the basin was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The basin was on top of them, and all their hindquarters were toward the center. The basin was 3 inches thick, and its rim was fashioned like the brim of a cup or of a lily blossom. It held 11,000 gallons. Then he made 10 bronze water carts. Each water cart was 6 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 4.5 feet high. This was the design of the carts. They had frames. The frames were between the cross pieces, and on the frames between the cross pieces were lions, oxen, and cherubim. On the cross pieces there was a pedestal above, and below the lions and oxen were wreaths of hanging work. Each cart had 4 bronze wheels with bronze axles. Underneath the 4 corners of the basin were cast supports, each next to a wreath, and the water cart's opening inside the crown on top was 18 inches wide. The opening was round, made as a pedestal 27 inches wide. On it were carvings, but their frames were square, not round. There were 4 wheels under the frames, and the wheel axles were part of the water cart. Each wheel was 27 inches tall. The wheel's design was similar to that of chariot wheels. Their axles, rims, spokes, and hubs were all of cast metal. 4 supports were at the 4 corners of each water cart. Each support was one piece with the water cart. At the top of the cart was a band 9 inches high encircling it. Also at the top of the cart, its braces and its frames were one piece with it. He engraved cherubim, lions, and palm trees on the plates of its braces and on its frames, wherever each had space, with encircling wreaths. In this way he made the 10 water carts using the same casting, dimensions, and shape for all of them. Then he made 10 bronze basins. Each basin held 220 gallons, and each was 6 feet wide. 1 basin for each of the 10 water carts. He set 5 water carts on the right side of the temple and 5 on the left side. He put the basin near the right side of the temple toward the southeast. Then Hiram made the basins, the shovels, and the sprinkling basins. So Hiram finished all the work that he was doing for King Solomon on the Lord's temple. 2 pillars, bowls for the capitals that were on top of the 2 pillars, the 2 gratings for covering both bowls of the capitals that were on top of the pillars, the 400 pomegranates for the 2 gratings, 2 rows of pomegranates for each grating covering both capitals' bowls on top of the pillars, the 10 water carts, the 10 basins on the water carts, the basin, the 12 oxen underneath the basin, and the pots, shovels, and sprinkling basins. All the utensils that Hiram made for King Solomon at the Lord's temple were made of burnished bronze. The king had them cast in clay molds in the Jordan Valley between Succoth and Zarethan. Solomon left all the utensils unweighed because there were so many. The weight of the bronze was not determined. Solomon also made all the equipment in the Lord's temple: the gold altar, the gold table that the bread of the presence was placed on, the pure gold lampstands in front of the inner sanctuary, 5 on the right and 5 on the left, the gold flowers, lamps, and tongs, the pure gold ceremonial bowls, wick trimmers, sprinkling basins, ladles, and fire pans, and the gold hinges for the doors of the inner temple, that is, the most holy place, and for the doors of the temple sanctuary. So all the work King Solomon did in the Lord's temple was completed. Then Solomon brought in the consecrated things of his father David, the silver, the gold, and the utensils, and put them in the treasuries of the Lord's temple.
Okay, and that was it. Now I'll say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us for our trespasses. Forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Yep. And that is it for today. I'm going to go have breakfast. An avocado toast because there's no eggs. Well, there's one egg, but I'm not going to eat that. I don't eat the last egg. I save that for Daddy. And Angela, I will be on, I don't know when. I might come back on. Oh, yeah. I'll probably be on the other channel for a morning chit chat while I eat my boring avocado toast. Ooh. It, the, you can move the bubbles. See, I can move the bubble. Well, some of them. Okay, Angela, I am going to go now because I want to eat. I know I'm dressed for the gym, but I'm not really got my stuff together. And I'll be on later. I'll be right back on my other channel for the morning chit chat, and that's usually only half hour anyway. So peace out.